What if the most dangerous crime you could commit was a thought? Not an action, not a word spoken aloud, but a single silent, stray idea flickering in the darkness of your own mind. Imagine a world where your own nervous system is your worst enemy, where a flicker of the eye or a murmured word in your sleep could sign your death warrant. This isn't a distant fantasy. It is the chilling, suffocating reality of George Orwell's 1984, a world where the price of sanity is to believe that 2 + 2 = 5, and the price of rebellion is to be erased from existence itself, to become an unperson, a ghost who never was. Today, we are not just summarizing a book. We are taking a journey into the heart of a warning, a prophecy that has haunted our world for over 70 years. It's a story whose vocabulary has become our own big brother, the thought police, doublethink terms we use to describe the creeping shadows in our own society. We will walk in the footsteps of a man who dared to ask why in a world that had outlawed the question. We will feel his fear, his hope, and his despair. And by the end of our 30 minutes together, you will understand not just the story of 1984, but why it remains one of the most essential, terrifying, and profoundly important books ever written. The central knowing problem at the heart of 1984 is the death of truth, not just the manipulation of facts, but the complete and utter annihilation of objective reality itself. George Orwell, writing in the shadow of World War II and the rise of totalitarian regimes, asks a question that is more terrifyingly relevant today than ever before. What happens to the human soul when a ruling power gains the ability not only to control the present and the future, but to reach back and erase the past? What happens when memory becomes a crime and history is a fluid, endlessly rewritten script designed to serve the powerful? This is the world of Oceania, and its every citizen lives under the suffocating gaze of the party. The conflict is not a grand battle of armies, but a silent, desperate war fought inside the skull of one man. Winston Smith is not a hero. He is a frail, 39-year-old bureaucrat with a varicose ulcer on his ankle and a soul weary from a lifetime of lies. He works in the Ministry of Truth, where his job is to perpetually alter historical records to make the past conform to the party's ever-changing narrative. He is a cog in the very machine he despises. And yet, within this unremarkable man, a tiny, dangerous spark of rebellion ignites. It's the rebellion of wanting to remember, of wanting to believe that the world was not always a landscape of gray decay, boiled cabbage, and constant surveillance. This is the grand promise of Orwell's masterpiece. It is not to give us answers or a path to victory. Its promise is to provide a diagnosis, to hold up a dark mirror to the mechanisms of absolute power and the psychology of oppression. Orwell, through Winston's journey, gives us a guided tour of the totalitarian mind. He shows us, with surgical precision, how language can be weaponized to narrow the range of thought, how fear can be institutionalized to control emotion, and how a state can wage a war against the very concept of individual consciousness. The book promises to pull back the curtain on the final, most terrifying frontier of control, not the control of your body, but the ownership of your mind. By following Winston's desperate search for truth, we are invited to understand the stakes of our own reality and to recognize the ghosts of Oceania when they appear in our own world. Our story begins on a bright, cold day in April when the clocks are striking 13. This single, jarring detail immediately tells us that we are in a world where the fundamental laws of reality have been bent. We meet Winston Smith as he slips through the glass doors of Victory Mansions, a place whose name is a bitter irony. The hallway smells of old rag mats and boiled cabbage, a scent of decay that permeates the entire world of Oceania. And on the wall, a poster with an enormous face, the face of a man of about 45 with a heavy black mustache, gazes down. The caption beneath it runs "Big Uau." It is one of those pictures so contrived that the eyes follow you when you move. This is not just decoration, it is a statement of fact. Winston's world is a symphony of grim surveillance and institutionalized misery. His small flat is dominated by the telescreen, an oblong metal plaque that serves as both a television and a security camera. It can be dimmed, but there is no way of shutting it off completely. It babbles endlessly about pig iron production and the glorious overfulfillment of the 9th three-year plan, while simultaneously watching Winston's every move and listening to his every sound. Any sound above a low whisper will be picked up. He has to live, as everyone does, from habit that becomes instinct, in the assumption that every sound he makes is overheard and, except in darkness, every movement is scrutinized. This is London, chief city of Airstrip 1, a province of the superstate Oceania. But it is not the London of history. It is a landscape of rot and ruin, of 19th century houses propped up with timber, their windows patched with cardboard. It's a city of bombed sites where plaster dust swirls and sordid colonies of wooden dwellings have sprung up like chicken houses. Above this grimy landscape, the Ministry of Truth, Winston's place of work, towers vast and white, an enormous pyramidal structure of glittering concrete, 300 meters into the air. Scrawled on its face are the three slogans of the party WAROSPACE, Severe Y, STIR and GH. These slogans are the pillars of the party's philosophy, a philosophy of contradictions known as doublethink. Winston works for Minitru, the Ministry of Truth, which concerns itself with news, entertainment, and the fine arts, which in reality means it deals in lies. The other ministries are equally Orwellian inversions. The Ministry of Peace, Minipax, wages perpetual war. The Ministry of Love, Minilove, maintains law and order through torture and terror. And the Ministry of Plenty, Miniplenty, presides over an economy of constant shortages. Winston is a product of this system, his body and spirit worn down by it. He is thin, frail, his skin roughened by coarse soap and blunt razor blades. He survives on a diet of foul-tasting Victory gin and loosely packed Victory cigarettes that fall apart in his fingers. But inside this worn-out vessel, a rebellious thought has taken root. It leads him to a frowsy little junk shop in a slummy quarter, a place party members are supposed to avoid. There, he buys a thick, quarto-sized blank book with a red back and a marbled cover. Its smooth, creamy paper is a relic from a forgotten time. This book is a compromising possession. To own it is a risk. To write in it is madness. And that is exactly what he intends to do. Back in his flat, in a small alcove just out of the telescreen's direct line of sight, he commits his first, decisive crime. He opens a diary. The act itself is not illegal, because nothing is illegal anymore. There are no laws. But if detected, it is reasonably certain that it would be punished by death. With a tremor in his bowels, he dips an old-fashioned pen into a bottle of ink and writes April 4th, 1984. But he isn't even sure that this is the correct date. The past has been so thoroughly erased that pinning down any date within a year or two is impossible. He writes for the future, for the unborn, but wonders how communication is even possible. Either the future would resemble the present, in which case it would not listen to him, or it would be different from it, and his predicament would be meaningless. This is the core of Winston's existential dread. For a moment he is paralyzed. Then, a memory of an event from the previous nights floods his mind, a war film showing the bombing of a lifeboat full of refugees, the audience laughing hysterically as a child's arm is blown into the air. The memory pours out of him in a stream of childish, unpunctuated handwriting, a testament to the brutal desensitization the party has engineered in its populace. This small, private act of writing, of trying to record a personal truth, sets Winston on a collision course with the most powerful and terrifying force in his world. It begins his journey from a state of suppressed hatred to one of active rebellion. The diary is his first step into a world of his own, a world where memory and truth might still exist, even if only in the mind of a single, doomed man. The engine of the party's control is the 2 minutes hate. Every day at 1100, the workers of the Ministry of Truth gather before the great telescreen for a ritual of pure, unadulterated rage. The face of Emmanuel Goldstein, the enemy of the people, the primal traitor, flashes onto the screen. Goldstein is the ultimate scapegoat, the supposed author of all heresies and conspiracies against the party. He is everything the party is not. He advocates for peace, for freedom of speech, for freedom of thought. Behind his sneering, intellectual face march the endless columns of the enemy Eurasian army, a terrifying display of military might. The effect is instantaneous and irresistible. Within 30 seconds, the crowd is in a frenzy. People leap from their seats, screaming abuse. The horrible thing about the 2 minutes hate was not that one was obliged to act a part, but, on the contrary, that it was impossible to avoid joining in. Winston finds himself shouting with the others, kicking his heel violently against the rung of his chair. It is a hideous ecstasy of fear and vindictiveness, an abstract, undirected emotion that can be switched from one object to another like the flame of a blow lamp. In one moment, his heart goes out to the lonely, derided heretic on the screen. In the next, he is one with the crowd, His loathing of Big Brother transformed into adoration. It is during one of these sessions that two people enter Winston's life. The first is a young woman with thick dark hair, a freckled face, and a narrow scarlet sash around her waist, the emblem of the Junior Anti-Sex League. Winston dislikes her on sight. She has the air of a zealot, the kind of good-thinking person who is a swallower of slogans and a noser out of unorthodoxy. He imagines her an agent of the thought police, and his hatred for her is so intense that it manifests in violent, sexual fantasies of torturing and killing her. He hates her because she is young and pretty and sexless, a symbol of the party's war on desire. The other person is a man named O'Brien. He is a member of the inner party, a large, burly man with a thick neck and a coarse, brutal face, yet he possesses a certain charm of manner, a curious air of civilization. Winston feels deeply drawn to him. It is because of a secretly held belief, a hope that O'Brien's political orthodoxy is not perfect. Something in his face, his intelligence, suggests it. He seems to be a person you could talk to, if only you could cheat the telescreen. And then, for a fraction of a second, the significant thing happens. Amid the chanting of B, Winston's eyes meet O'Brien's. An unmistakable message passes between them. It is as though their minds have opened and thoughts are flowing from one to the other. I am with you, O'Brien seems to be saying. I know all about your contempt, your hatred, your disgust. But don't worry, I am on your side. And then the flash of intelligence is gone, and O'Brien's face is as inscrutable as everyone else's. That momentary, equivocal glance is all Winston has, but it is enough. It keeps alive in him the hope that he is not alone, that the Brotherhood, the vast underground conspiracy rumored to exist, might be real after all. It is this encounter, this flicker of shared rebellion in another's eyes, that solidifies Winston's resolve. That night, after being shaken by an encounter with the terrifyingly indoctrinated children of his neighbor, Parsons, who accuse him of being a traitor, and a thought criminal, Winston returns to his diary. He writes down the party slogans EFREWSSLEVRIGNORNCSTRNGH. He reflects on the party's total control, on the mutability of the past, on his own utter loneliness. But he also thinks of O'Brien. He dips his pen and writes a message, a salutation from a lonely ghost across the void, to the future or to the past, to a time when thought is free. From the age of uniformity, from the age of solitude, from the age of Big Brother, from the age of doublethink greetings, he has accepted that he is already dead. He writes thought crime does not entail death, thought crime yes death. The rebellion has truly begun. It is no longer just a feeling, it is a conscious act. But this act of intellectual defiance soon finds an unexpected and dangerous new dimension. The girl with the dark hair, the very symbol of party orthodoxy that Winston despised, re-enters his life. In a corridor at the ministry, she stumbles and falls. As Winston helps her up in a fleeting, covert movement, she slips a small, folded scrap of paper into his hand. For the rest of the morning, Winston is tormented by possibilities. The note is surely a political message. It could be a threat, a summons from the thought police. Or, the wilder possibility, it could be a message from the underground. The hope, as unreasonable as it is, persists. Finally, at his desk, with trembling hands, he unfolds the scrap of paper. On it is written, in a large, unformed handwriting, 3 simple words, I love you. The note shatters Winston's world. The desire to stay alive wells up in him with a force he had forgotten. The girl, whose name is Julia, has seen through his facade of conformity, just as he saw through O'Brien's. Their first meetings are masterpieces of clandestine planning, snatched conversations in the jostling crowds of Victory Square, a whispered set of directions amidst the rumble of a convoy of prisoners of war. Julia is his opposite in many ways. While Winston's rebellion is intellectual and philosophical, born of a desperate need to understand why, Julia's rebellion is carnal and pragmatic. I'm not interested in the next generation, dear, she tells him. I'm interested in us. She hates the party, but only because it gets in the way of her having a good time. She is, as Winston tells her, a rebel from the waist downwards. Their affair is a political act. Every kiss is a blow against the party. Every moment of shared pleasure is a victory. They find a sanctuary, a small, shabby room above Mr. Charrington's junk shop, a room without a telescreen. It becomes their private world, a pocket of the past. Here they can be themselves. Julia brings luxuries from the black market, obtained from her dealings with inner party members, real sugar, real bread, real coffee, and makeup. She paints her face, an act of shocking defiance. In this room am going to be a woman, she declares, not a party comrade. For Winston, the room, and the heavy glass paperweight he bought from the shop, becomes a symbol of the fragile, beautiful past he is trying to reclaim. The coral inside the glass is their life, fixed in a sort of eternity at the heart of the crystal. But their sanctuary is also a trap, and they know it. We are the dead, Winston says, acknowledging the inevitability of their capture. Julia, more optimistic, disagrees. But they both understand the risks they are taking. Their intellectual rebellion finds its focus when O'Brien finally makes his move. He approaches Winston in a corridor, referencing a friend who is an expert in newspeak and unmistakable, and mortally dangerous, allusion to the vaporized Syme. It is the signal Winston has been waiting for. O'Brien invites Winston to his apartment to see an advance copy of the new Newspeak dictionary. The visit to O'Brien's apartment is a journey into another world. The richness, the quiet, the unfamiliar smells of good food and tobacco, the white-jacketed servant, it is the world of the inner party. And there, O'Brien does the unthinkable. He turns off the telescreen. We have that privilege, he says calmly. In that moment of silent, illicit privacy, Winston confesses everything. He and Julia declare themselves enemies of the party, thought criminals, adulterers. O'Brien, in turn, confirms their deepest hope the Brotherhood is real. He initiates them into this shadowy organization, a conspiracy held together not by structure, but by an idea. He makes them swear a horrifying oath, to be prepared to commit murder, to betray their country, to throw sulfuric acid in a child's face if it would serve the cause. The one thing they will not do, they say, is separate and never see one another again. O'Brien tells them they will be caught, that they will confess, that there is no hope of victory in their lifetime. We are the dead, he says. Our only true life is in the future. He promises to send Winston a copy of the book, the legendary testament of Emmanuel Goldstein, which contains all the party's secrets. Days later, during the orchestrated frenzy of Hate Week, the book arrives. The enemy has suddenly, inexplicably switched from Eurasia to Eastasia, and the machinery of the Ministry of Truth grinds into overdrive to erase any record of the previous alignment. In the midst of this chaos, Winston is handed a briefcase containing the heavy black volume, The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism. Back in the sanctuary of the room, he begins to read. The book does not tell him anything he doesn't already know, but it systematizes his scattered thoughts. It confirms that his perception of the world is not madness. It explains the mechanics of the party, the purpose of perpetual war, the doctrine of doublethink, the strategy of freezing history. It is the intellectual validation he has craved. As he lies in bed with Julia, the sound of a prole woman singing in the yard below, Winston feels a sense of profound peace. He has the book. He has Julia. He has the room. He believes he has found a pocket of sanity in a world gone mad. But as the iron voice shatters the quiet of their sanctuary, he learns that the room was never a sanctuary, O'Brien was never an ally, and his journey into rebellion was merely the first, carefully managed stage of his journey into the place where there is no darkness, the ministry of love. So why is 1984 a book you absolutely must read? What sets it apart from the legion of dystopian novels it inspired? The answer is that Orwell's masterpiece is not really about the future. It's about the eternal present of power. It is the most profound and terrifying psychological thriller ever written, where the antagonist is not a person, but an idea, and the battlefield is the human mind. Its unique, chilling genius lies in its creation of a political vocabulary that perfectly diagnoses the sicknesses of the modern world. Words like newspeak, doublethink, thought crime, and unperson are not just fictional concepts, they are the sharpest analytical tools we have for understanding how information is manipulated, how language is weaponized, and how history is rewritten before our very eyes. No other book gives you this lens. It doesn't just tell you a story, it gives you a new way to see the world. So who is this book for? It is for anyone who believes in the existence of objective truth. It is for the student of history, politics, and psychology. It is for the citizen concerned about surveillance, censorship, and the erosion of individual freedoms. It is for the writer, the artist, the thinker, who understands that the freedom to create is inseparable from the freedom to think. It is for anyone who has ever looked at the world and felt that something is profoundly wrong, but couldn't quite put their finger on it. Orwell puts his finger on it with crushing, illuminating force. Who is this book now for? It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for those seeking an easy, optimistic escape. This book offers no comfort. It is a bucket of ice water to the face. It is bleak, it is brutal, and its final pages will leave you shaken. It is not a book you enjoy in the conventional sense. It is a book you experience, a book you endure, a book that changes you. The single most valuable takeaway from 1984 is not a lesson but a feeling. It is the chilling, unforgettable realization that the ultimate form of control is not coercion, but conversion. The greatest victory for any oppressive power is not to silence you, but to make you love your own chains, to make you believe, with all your heart, that 2 + 2 truly does equal 5. We began this journey by asking what it would mean to live in a world where a thought is a crime. George Orwell shows us. He takes us by the hand and walks us through the terrifying, logical conclusion of what happens when a society abandons truth in the pursuit of power. This summary has given you the blueprint, the map of that desolate landscape. But to truly understand the human cost, to feel the profound weight of Winston Smith's struggle, you have to experience it for yourself. To feel his despair in the bowels of the Ministry of Love, and to grasp the horrifying beauty of his final, devastating reintegration. Reading this book is not just about consuming a story. It is an act of intellectual self-defense. It is an inoculation against the very ideologies it describes. It's a reminder that the most precious thing we possess is the small, private space inside our own skulls, and that the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4 is the foundation of all other freedoms. So, I urge you, do not let this just be another summary you've heard. Let it be the beginning of a journey. Pick up this book. Let Orwell's clear, cold, brilliant prose wash over you. It is an experience that will stay with you for the rest of your life. The link to get your own copy of 1984 is in the description below. If you found this summary valuable, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the books that shape our world. Thank you for listening.